on or no, change it. Yeah. Welcome to F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T episode 72, aka the Broken Brothers Pentacle Church. It's a futile fall showdown, all 525 songs, approximately going head to head in ultimate, never to repeat it until next time. Showdown split into 4 eras, 77 to 85, 86, 93, etc., etc. Joined. We are back after a break and joined by Mature, Pippington, Billy Rugby, tight, faded male arse. How you doing, Pip?
Well, thank you very much, sir. I'm excellent. My batteries are recharged.
Good. Lord Sage Temple is on pat leave dispenser, but he's been replaced by Chris Barrow of Wigan, Meat Animal. How you doing,
Hello.
Chris?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Now on the other side of the divide, no longer guest, no guestee. T. Pemberton Walker, I thought you were rabbit prey or loose sex criminal.
Yeah, all of the above. And this week I've been mostly scraping my chin against the pavement.
Oh, again? Nice. Oh, good. Joined maybe by Tiny Tim Twa from the other side. Compared to this, St. Petersburg was nothing. Is he with us?
He's been tapping on the radiator, loud and clear.
Good. And I am Three Beards. I throw it on the floor and I piss in it. We have a guest. It is Jerry Thackray, the leg end. Jerry, nice to have you.
Yes, nice to be here, I think.
Well, only time will tell, won't it? Jerry, do you mind telling us your fall journey, your history with this band and your love?
Yeah, sure. My fall journey. Well, I got into pop music really late. I didn't like any of the pop music that I heard in the 70s, so I didn't listen to any of it. And I looked kind of on in horror at my friends who kind of watched Top of the Pops and stuff. So in the late 70s, I was about 17 before I got into pop music. That was about the age. And I had a bunch of, not a bunch, I had 3 friends. They were my only friends. They were into comics and they got into punk rock. And I didn't really like this punk rock that much. I thought it was just a load of kind of male rock stars strutting their stuff, kind of like the Rolling Stones, only in a different way. And but it was a choice between kind of either liking some of this music or losing my friends. And I found it quite hard to make friends at that point in time, still do, as a matter of fact. And so I started getting into music. Now I was 17. I was fully aware that in future years, when I was like past my 60s, I would be asked what the first record I ever bought was. So I was careful to make sure it was something that I would be proud of telling people about. I got it slightly wrong with my single, actually. The first single I ever bought was the Sex Pistols. That sounds cool and everything, but it wasn't. It was the Ronnie Big Sex Pistols single. And the first album I ever bought was Live at the Witch Trials by the Fall. It was a choice between that or Punishment of Luxury, I seem to remember. Punny Luck's okay, but they weren't that okay. And the Fall album, so Live at the Witch Trials, I bought it and I was that naive about music. For about 20 years after I bought it, I was always absolutely in awe at the obvious amount of time they must have spent recording it to get it so finely honed in the studio. I thought they must have spent months and months and months kind of getting every kind of last note just right. Whereas, of course, they recorded it all in about 6 hours when Marky Smith had a cold or something. So that's where it kind of started. I kind of religiously bought every kind of Fall single I could, mostly from Rough Trade Records in Ladbroke Grove in London. Bought every single one on the deck, came out for years and years. Bought all of their albums, certainly up to Hex Induction Hour, possibly a little bit later than that. Until and then I became a music critic and started getting sent stuff for free, and so I didn't buy stuff so much then. Actually, I still bought stuff a lot then. So that's roughly it.
Splendid.
Oh yeah, and I never went to see them live because I always figured there'd be a massive disappointment, so I held off. Because I was like, there's no way, it took them months and months and months to get that sound on Live in the Witch Trials. There's no way they could duplicate that live. So I held off till about 1981, I believe, to see them live, some considerable length of time in those days. And I only went to see them live because my favourite band in the world at the time was supporting them, U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T, female three-piece from New York, and they got bottled off the stage by the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T, which I thought was hilarious, actually.
One of the shames that we have that we don't talk about too much is that we've actually not seen the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T live many times. I only saw them once. Al, you've probably seen them the most. How many times did you see them?
Once.
So between us, we've only seen them a handful. Chris, come on, you must have seen them a few times.
I'm going to say 5.
Okay, see.
I saw
something
three.
yeah.
I watched them in Manchester at least 3 times.
Yeah. But
they played Wigan.
They did play Wigan.
Yeah,
they played.
To go to that.
Yeah.
Did you? I was a poor man.
Right. Jerry, did you get to see him many times through the years, or was that your one-off?
I'm not. I can't really remember the 80s or the 90s or the noughties, or actually, I can't even remember yesterday. But it's a bloody awful song. But I think I probably saw them a dozen times or so, I think, over the years, because it seems, I think it wouldn't have been possible to see them less than that. I would have mainly gone to see the support bands, because they always did have some interesting support bands. And they did a whole series of shows in the early 80s. I think they and the Cramps kind of went head to head. And I was a big fan of both bands, so that seemed like a no-brainer to go and see. So yeah, I don't know, maybe a dozen times.
Nice. Well, I want to dig into that a little bit more as we go through, if that's all right. And I know recently you played a gig of some F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T, covers, which is delightful. I'd like to ask you a little bit about that later, if you don't mind.
Of course.
And yeah, let's start off by having listened to Jawbone and the Air Rifle first. Phil, if you don't mind. La la, nice. Pip, as is customary, I'm coming to you first. What do you make of Jawbone and the Air Rifle?
Oh, it's a beautiful piece. It's very atmospheric, very evocative, slice of narrative weird. I think the first thing that you've got to talk about is just that bass line that bounces all the way through the song. It's right in your face. It's the constant sense of momentum that carries you all the way through, even on the tempo changes, which come up some quite sort of handbrake turns, the slip into like a boogie woogie walking bass line, and then the half tempo drop down where it's it takes on this slower, more kind of talkative pace. Absolutely brilliant stuff. This is kind of what you pay your money for, isn't it? It's the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T, it's Emma James, it's creepy and it's rocking. And I'll do something I don't normally do, actually, make reference to the annotated vault, which is I try to avoid as much as possible. But the Run Rabbit Run thing, as soon as I read that on the annotated vault, the fact that that's where that kind of riff comes from, it's like, oh yeah, I can't not hear that now. But yeah, brilliant tune.
Yeah, brilliant. And once again, our weekly thanks to the Annotated F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T for doing most of our work for us. So thank you very much. And Al, what do you make of Jawbone and the Air Rifle? Hex Induction Hour 1982.
Again, one of those that I've loved for many a year. Really solid, and it's driving rhythm has been mentioned before, like that bass line. And the drop down's fantastic as well. It's like a different song. I think that is quite interesting in the way that it comes out. It works out. But yeah, just in general, like, you can hear loads of other bands in it as well, can't you? That is just so bloody influential. It's unbelievable. whiffs of pavement in there, definitely. But yeah, fantastic song from a fantastic LP, and it's going to be a really difficult one this first round.
Pavement influenced by the Fall. You're really pushing it out there, aren't you? Pushing the boat out. What next?
Yeah. I'm driving on a reverser this week.
Yeah. This is what. So Ezra's had a lot of time basically because he's off work and he's got a new baby. So strap in for this one. I'll do the voice. Titanic camera and scale, bargain basement, run rabbit mummery from Das Group. Despite relatively short length, quite musically varied for Hex, etc., etc., etc. He talks about the Peel Session version, which is really good. Dread tale of nightmare curse on conversion, thrust upon poacher man driven to hills because he gets no kicks anymore from wife or children 4. Yes, he goes on and on and on, but it's all great stuff. Jerry, what do you make of Jawbone and the air rifle?
Well, here's the thing. I think I might have been the first person to write about pavement in this country, and I might have picked up on the Fall reference somewhat. And I might have taken the piss out of Steve Malkmus relentlessly about it for several years. But here's the odd thing about me as a Fall fan. As you're aware, I've been doing these kind of piano versions of songs for the last couple of years, kind of posting them up one a day on Facebook. It was something that started during lockdown. I can't sing, I can't play the piano, but it just seems like it's something to do, isn't it? And before I've never listened to lyrics my entire life. I couldn't even tell you the lyrics to like 2-line Ramones songs, and I read a book on the Ramones. I couldn't even tell you their lyrics. I couldn't tell you the song titles. And so the Fall's really interesting for me because I've never, until I started doing these piano versions, never ever listened to Fall lyrics. Obviously I was aware that everybody said Marquis Smith was an incredible poet and wordsmith and everything. And the bits that I had heard, I kind of bought into, but so what I listen to in a song like that are the kind of intonations, the kind of the rhythmic kind of, as you say, the bass kind of it's a good solid line. There was a great live album came out around that time, I believe, A Part of America therein, that time. And I don't know if that song was on it, but I seem to remember that album. I like its induction hour a lot, but it was an hour, right? That's the title.
Because they cheated a little bit because it's on this day was like 15 minutes and they chopped it down so it was exactly 60 minutes. But we'll give him that.
Yeah, so they cut it off. It's a great solid Fall song.
Indeed. And what does Mr. Chris Barrow of Wigan think?
Well, I think it covers a lot in 3.5 minutes. It kicks off with an excellent punky sound, possibly one of the most overtly punk songs by the band, actually. The chorus, in my opinion, could have been slightly better, a little bit glib after the initial impact, then slows down into a section that is quite atmospheric, more of a Ben Sinister vibe for that section. Then basically does it all again. Also sounds fantastic when the first part kicks back in again. That's a real good moment. And the lyrics are like a weird urban horror movie. The villagers dance around prefabs and laugh through twisted mouths. Excellent stuff.
Indeed. And if you are going to criticise, Chris, how would you improve the chorus to this song? Can you do better?
It's a little mismatch to the kind of. Kind of just goes a little bit.
I'll let you off this week, but next week,
just a yellow card, that one.
Exactly. So we started Patreon like the other week. Sellouts, or is it us being independent artists? Who knows? Is it good?
Pirates.
Who knows?
This is the new pirate radio.
Anyway, we've now got a Patreon, so this is for the fan by the fan. This is Leon, our Patreon, sent in a message to read about the song. He said the best version on Hex is louder slashing guitars. Any Mez narrative tale should be treasures, and one of Riley's finest guitar lines in the last verse. I agree. I think that Run Rabbit Run, that stood out as soon as I'd got it, and I'd never heard that before. But that thumping bass, that great melody. I love the understated backing vocals because often those chants kind of overpower, right? But they're kind of nicely buried in the mix, especially on the album version. Classically wonky, and those lyrics. The rabbit killer left his home for the cloth and said goodbye to his infertile spouse. Carried air rifle and firm stock of wood. Carried night sight telescope light. It all gets very mysterious and Lovecraftian, maybe with slime towards the end, but splendid stuff indeed. What does Tiny Tim think on the other side over there?
Well, he's tapped through Morse code. What to say? Bloody brilliant. Perfectly judged and paced with some of the best part writing in their catalogue. The successfully bell-like ring of the guitars that sparkle and fill space perfectly with sublime rhythm section propelling everything forward. I love the backing vocals doubling the bass line in the chorus, the slightly ramshackle jerk into motion when the track speeds into the chorus too. The vocal performance and lyrics are a career highlight with some brilliant phrasing and enunciation. No bottle had he anymore. Beautiful
Indeed, and it is up against, and this is unfortunately we come to the end of round one, so we had to put all the big songs that were left up against each other. So it is up against Smile off Perverted by Language 1983, which is a disgrace. I cannot believe that the universe has thrown these two songs together so early in the competition, but that is life and we must go with it. So there's a little bit of Smile, if you don't mind, Philip.
Really layering on those excuses here, aren't you? You're like nothing but 3-4 weeks from us about it.
Come on.
Faded male arts, decadence and anarchy. He said, he smiled. Something to dance to, a certain style. Smiles.
So, Chris Barrow, I'm coming to you first because you defended systematic abuse when it came up, and it looks like they might have cribbed themselves a little bit there on this song. Smile!
Yes. Well, on the BBC 4 Fall documentary, John Peel says of seeing the Fall in the early 80s, "I've never been in a room so crackling with malevolence. So much hostility and rancor. Hard to explain, but this is an aspect of the Fall that makes them highly appealing. Smile is arguably the most hostile and malevolent song they ever came up with. Repetitive and tense throughout, just changing in its intensity. Fantastic vocals, utterly unique. Just a wonderful antagonistic slab of attitude that you can't help but love."
Indeed. Ezra reckons it sounds like Vincent Price welcoming the reader to a tale of terror. The terror sounds to me like non-Euclidean prismatic vortex of socializing. I can only do this if I'm totally...
Was it gibbous?
It was gibbous and waxing, wasn't it? Girls unimpressed by upper middle class anarchists, one would hope, tripping balls and wandering into this grim posh party scene. Hip, what do you make of this character assassination?
So when this song starts off, that guitar riff is one of my favourite Fall guitar riffs. I think beautiful. I think the open strings, it's the way it chimes against these kind of semitone drops and stuff. I think it's so haunting, and I'm in straight away. Whatever this is, I'm in. And then as the drums build up and the drums actually kick in, the guitar just disappears into the background. It's just like this sort of texture thing that's going on, and it's just Mark and the drums just doing this bizarre performance, theatrical kind of piece. It's like I'm never quite sure what he's talking about, but it scares the shit out of me. And I love his little sort of barked one-liners that are like these two-word phrases that just seem to kind of capture so much and ask so many questions, but I'm really not. I've no idea where it is I'm being led. I just know it's quite dark and scary. I think Mezzy's vocal performance is what makes this, and I think it's astonishing.
The squawk is in full squawk mode all the way through. It's absolutely wonderful. Terry, what does Smile do for you?
Oh man, you can't put any other song up against Smile. I'm sorry, you just can't. They're just going to pale into flaccid indifference. This is. Honestly, I think Mark's vocals on this are some of his finest vocals he's ever recorded. The kind of bile, the spittle behind them, the kind of, the malevolence has been talked about already. It's Jawbone, the Jawbone and the Rifle, kind of, I like that song, but that's a punk song in as much as it exists on one level. It kind of, but this one's got so much dynamics behind it, so many dynamics going on. It's got so many kind of different layers and contrasts happening. Kind of the other song that Smile always puts me in mind of, Full song, is Spectre versus Rector. Kind of a similar kind of great vocal performance and similar levels of hostility and kind of just sheer kind of scariness. Also, kind of, it's interesting you pulled out that song from post TLC Reformation, because I think the three kind of standout albums for me, kind of post like 1982 or something, would be post TLC Reformation, Code Selfish, and Perverted by Language. And probably for similar kind of reasons, that they've all got it going on. Anyway, Smile. I mean, wow.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's so dark. He's talking about there's nothing to smile about in this song at all. It is just so dark, bass heavy. The toms, just Carl Burns just rattling those toms all the way through, and then Smith on absolute fire. That bass coming in high and low, and I'd never really been able to hear the lyrics in this song before. So reading them this week, it's just a straight one of his character assassination songs. Whoever this is about, they want to get out of that room as soon as possible. Patchwork jacket from the top of his ears shaved, relation with fellow age group and opposite birds, smiles, wants anarchy, positive GBH, smile. Alistair,
Marky Smith always had this kind of reputation of being a cantankerous kind of, git. And I wonder how much of that is just kind of the persona being projected from songs like this, and how, I mean, doubtless, I only ever met him a couple of times. Doubtless he was a formidable opponent, but I do wonder whether a lot of it's just carried over from a song like this.
It's definitely part. We've talked about this a few times. How much is he putting it on a little bit? How much is it's people interpretation of art versus artist kind of thing? And how much would you just want to be wary? Did you ever interview him, or is it just you just passed in?
I've got a couple of very small anecdotes here. So I remember in the early 80s, the Membranes, I don't know if you remember Membranes, Blackpool band, supported
John Robb, right?
John Robb, supported the Fall on a couple of dates, and I don't know what it was. They went into their dressing room and they shouldn't have done or something. But I remember John Robb telling me how Marky Smith just punched them straight out. And John Robb's,
he's a big guy, right?
Yeah, he's a big guy. Maybe that's when he started working out. I don't know. But in the early 1990s, we used to hold these debates in the Melody Maker offices, kind of variety, stage diving, indie versus major. We had an indie versus major debates, and we invited a whole load of people, and we had a couple of unexpected guests show up. Marky Smith and Peter Hook. They weren't invited. They just thought it sounded like a laugh. They came down to the offices, and there's this marvelous photo of them. I guess Marky Smith was still smoking, even though it was inside. And I'm sitting at the head of the table, and I've got Peter Hook standing on one side of me, Marky Smith, both with their hands on my shoulder, like they're kind of passing on the flame or something. It's it's one of my favorite photos. I don't remember a single word if he even said anything to me that day. I've got no idea.
Well, it seems like a delightful experience. Is that we've had a couple of people on who've kind of passed in his circle, and mostly people seem to have had a relatively nice experience if he didn't lock them out of the room that they were supposed to be in with him. It's this time of evening where I forget who I've spoken to. Tim, Al, have you told us what you think about Smile? Not yet. Al, go on.
I don't know, but I did dig out an old Melody Maker from 1994, just have a nose to reminisce.
Oh, why not? Why not?
Yeah, I bet it's dead interesting just seeing what was going on, like, because it seemed like there was a pretty sort of strong independent scene at the time, like, even though some of the independents were actually majors, by proxy. But yeah, like some good shit going on. But Smile, yeah, come on, he does kick the face off most opposition, doesn't it? Really, it's top draw sort of fall stuff. The Burns Hanley drumming on this is fantastic. The way that they bounce off each other. So you got sort of like Hanley kind of like playing the straight beat, and Burns just sort of like going around the shops, like, you know, and just chucking in stuff left, right, and centre. But yeah, like you said, the dynamics, the way the bass just sort of like goes high low, and the guitar. It's the only folk song that I've been asked to try to learn to play on guitar, and it was a lot of fun. But I did pick up in the lyrics the take the chicken run to the toilet, which I quite liked, and it reminded me of the Chicken Run film, and then that reminded me of the line in it. But I don't like gravy, but because it was take the chicken run to the toilet, it made me think, no, but I don't like bum gravy.
Well, that was quite a journey you went on there, and it's I'm glad that we spent several minutes taking it once again with you. So here's what Leon had to say over on Patreon. Smile, a masterwork of... I don't do the voice for him, do I? Because that'd be nice. Smile, a masterwork of force and tension with Mez as ringmaster. Love the
Maybe
nightmare.
do a different voice. Do the Patreon voice.
He says it's good. He likes Peel and verbal language, and he likens it to Sonic Youth and Swans, which
we're also having a competition to name Ezra the baby, aren't we?
Which I think Swans is in top running at the moment.
I always thought Minge would be a nice name for a girl.
I had a theory at one point that it doesn't hold up at all, so I don't think I should share it.
Go on.
But I had this theory that the Fall were to the UK what Sonic Youth were to America, in terms of the influence and the shadow they cast over the entire scene, pretty much single-handedly. Not necessarily talking sonically or anything like that, just in terms of their influence and you know, just their sway over everything. I always felt there was something happening.
I definitely give that. I think that the only thing that colours that for me is a bit that obviously Sonic Youth came a bit later and were influenced themselves by the Fall and that generation. But yeah, they were probably the first big one. I've just been listening to that podcast called You Don't Know Mojack. It's going through all the SST recordings album by album, and they're just about to get to Sonic Youth's first one. That's great. That if you're into, they go through all the Black Flag and Minutemen, Husker Du kind of stuff. What's it called? It's called You Don't Know Mojack. Okay, Mojack's like an obscure SST band, but well, it's time to take the first vote. So let's have a see. Which way are you going?
No, there was an argument, wasn't there? There was a bit of fisticuffs in the bunker this week about this one, because you've been very bad and you put these two songs together. And I am in camp Smile. As much as I love Jawbone and the Air Rifle, Smile is the best tune. You're wrong.
I know. I'm torn myself. Jerry, which way are you going?
I'm Smile.
Yeah, that's thought as much. Al?
It's a shame that it's not up against Chalkstock or something like that. It'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it? But it's got to be Smile.
I know. Chris?
Smile.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go for Smile. On repeated listens. I love the story of Jawbone, but it doesn't hold up against Smile. Smile is just a tour de force. It's just a force of nature. It's marvelous.
Smile doesn't have that stupid do in it, which is quite Riley, I think, that lets it down.
It is Riley with his cheekiness, isn't it? He has to choose his moments. What does Tim think?
Teams again.
He's given Jawbone 5, Smile 36.
Okay, as usual, sticking to the rules. So let's move on to Everything Hurts off Code Selfish. Now every time, Jerry, we just said this before, every time we come on, people say, like, did you choose this list with me in mind? And it's always totally random. And I just read somewhere or you mentioned earlier that Code Selfish is one of your albums that you like post Hex and so on, but just a coincidence. So let's have a listen to Everything Hurts off Code Selfish 1992. as you did mention Code Selfish earlier, Jerry, I'm going to come to you first, if you don't mind. What does Everything Hurts do for you?
Okay, well, I've got to say this straight off. It shits all over REM.
Right.
I'm sorry.
No argument here.
Oh, you can come back, Jerry. Will you come back every week?
Well, as I say, I got into music quite late on. One of the other bands, the first albums I bought was Joy Division. And I searched for that Atmosphere 12-inch for ages. I found it eventually, which was good and everything. And then played it on my really tinny kind of dance set record player and buggered it up completely. But I was always, somebody had told me that Ross Abbott had done a song called Atmosphere. And for years, I thought it was the same song. And I was so disappointed when I found out it wasn't. I would have loved to have heard Ross Abbott covering Joy Division.
Yeah.
This has got nothing to do with the full song, but I just thought that MES really loves a party with a good atmosphere, and that's what this song provides us. It's got the atmosphere, hasn't it? It's got that kind of it's kind of malevolent again, really. And it's just got a great riff, it just pounds away in there.
Yeah, very nice. Leon's reckons that it's mixed like a dance track with the driving bass and the guitar low in the mix with lots of lyrical treats. But the age and lifestyle is catching up with Mez. He visibly aged from 90 to 92, especially after that year in Edinburgh, drinking whiskey and getting divorced. But Chris, what does everybody and everything hurts do for you?
Yes, well, I do like Code Selfish. It's got that subtle nod to electronic music, like you say. But unfortunately, the production's a little bit timid to give that great kind of fall sound. The bass a bit kind of low in the mix for me. Everything Hurts is possibly the most kind of raucous thing on there, but they've kind of gone a bit further with it. I do like the guitar sound, but the rhythm is a little bit ploddy. The rhythm section's just a bit too ploddy. It's a good song, but certainly not a full classic. It goes on a little bit too long for me as well for a single.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's got its charm, but it was for me it was a strange choice as a single. I think it was put out as a single, wasn't it? But because there are 3 ranges on there, and that was that almost gave them the brush with greatness because it got to like 37 in the charts or something like that. What does Tim think?
So he's screaming to the void. Not bad, this one. The chug along is a bit standard, but I really like the keys or synths that sort of sputter along at a few points. It kind of reminds me a bit more of a conventional and toothless version of what they did with Das Vulture ans ein Nutterwein at points. But it lacks the bite and vitality. I type that from memory, so that might be garbled nonsense in a tribute to Mez's Pigeon German. Okay.
High praise indeed from the other side. For me, musically, yeah, maybe it's a bit middling, a bit plodding. It has got some nice Dave Bush rhythms going on there. But it was only when I got into the lyrics that I really started to kind of get into it. I've been pursuing the fuel too long, got a big fat pain in my chest bone, got a big fat no-no in my checkbook, and everything hurts. I got the disease tinnitus. I'm speaking like I've got Tourette's and everything hurts. I'm dressed like a road beacon on my way to Valhalla breakfast. Can't you see the witches by my side? Following me all through my life, and everything hurts. I was born. My take on this, and I was on it before and actually put in a comment, which I don't do very often, because I thought maybe I had something to add to this that hadn't been said before, but maybe it's a bit obvious. But this seems to me like Mez is taking that Buddhist idea of life is pain, and religion is opium for the masses as this kind of meditation on life. He talks through Christianity, he quotes the Bible, he talks possibly Buddhism and endless cycles, and then he mentions a Viking afterlife. So there's a theme which I don't think I'm imagining. I think it's there. And then he talks about getting hangovers involving chicken people and reptile hybrids crossing your bedroom, which I'm all for.
Well, that seals it.
That seals it. Brings in some Ikism as well at the last minute. Alistair, what do you reckon to this?
Yeah, I love the preaching bit at the beginning of it, where he is quoting Jesus. And I can imagine that that live being quite interesting. It's like you've gone into the Church of the Fall. We've went out previously, haven't we? But Anomaly called Selfish, so it's not one of my favourites, but I like this one, and I'm going to do that again. I do quite like this one. Surprised Chris was sort of like saying, "Oh, it's a bit ploddy," because it reminds me a bit of like what kind of turned into the later F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T, sound, like stuff like Systematic Abuse, where it's like dead kind of just.
Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
Listen, lads, it's his first time. I don't think this is Chris.
They learn from the mistakes that they made here.
We'll hold him. Jerry can punch him.
I'll agree with what Chris said about the production, because it's a bit too slick, and it's like when they were Fontana, wasn't it? They were basically signed to
major label, wasn't it?
Sinister, yeah. They're looking at shifting units, try and keep it sort of not too bland, but bland enough that you might get some radio play if you're lucky.
This is what the kids were lapping up in 1992, isn't it? Middling, plodding, dance-oriented kind of
system abuse.
Exactly.
I've got to say that I quite like the random, contrary nature of that being a single. There's something quite perverse about this single choice that really appeals to me, and I actually kind of like the fact that the production, in particular, is lacking a little bit of oomph, or whatever you want to call it. I kind of think it suits the kind of whole downbeat mood. As I say, I don't know what the lyrics are about, although the bits you read out sounded awesome. I'm going to have to check it out. I might cover this one, I think.
Yeah. Well, actually, now you mention covers, do you feel free to say no? Do you mind if I play a bit of one of your covers?
Sure, if you want. Yeah.
I was looking through the ones you'd posted on your Facebook, and I think the version of Rebellious Jukebox that you did was delightful. I'm going to play that if you don't mind.
Not a taxi for Mr. I'm searching for the now. I'm looking for the real thing, yeah. Head through a blue haze, waiting for the musical craze. We got a taxi for Mr. Nelson, taxi for Mr. Nelson. Rebellious jukebox, yeah. Rebellious jukebox, oh.
Very nice indeed. What was your kind of just tell me about that gig?
Yes.
Jerry, I'm not a professional media person or whatever they're called, but tell me about that gig, please, if you don't mind.
So what it was, Mark from Walthamstow Rock and Roll Book Club, which is an amazing institution in the north of London. It's incredible. They get the biggest names there all the time. They had Elton John turn up in the audience like a week before I played.
Wow.
He'd contacted me. He'd seen a clip of me performing at this kind of underground experimental festival, Supernormal, last year, and he thought it kind of worked. I was using a proper pianist in that one, a friend of mine who can actually play piano. Anyway, he was like, why don't you do this set of 4 covers? I think there's something to them. And I turned up at the venue, and they put me in front of this baby grand piano, and I'm like, I can't play piano. And now I'm not a sophisticated piano player by any stretch of the imagination, but I realized as soon as I sat down at piano just to try it out, before everybody showed up, I couldn't even do the levels of sophistication that I was kind of used to doing. So I had to do everything on 2 chords.
Right.
I had to, because that's the only possible way I could play it, and perhaps add in a note. And I really had no idea what I was going to be doing until I started doing it on any of the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T songs. I hadn't played Rebellious Jukebox like that before. I'd only played it once before anyway, but I certainly hadn't sung it melodically before. I was just like, I'm going to have to continue doing it, because if I stop, it's going to sound worse.
That's what the blues men say. You play it wrong, play it again.
Yeah.
And what was really weird was, I'm a lecturer, that's my job, okay? I'm used to people talking while I'm talking, that's what our classes are like. And in this venue, there were about 70 or 80 people there, and it was completely silent while I was playing. And they were treating me with respect, which I really was. You know, I'm a music critic. I'm a lecturer. I'm not used to being treated with respect. So that was really odd. And I was not expecting that at all. And people like applauding and laughing in the places you'd expect them to. And it was quite an experience. And just 2 days ago, Mark from the Rock and Roll Book Club sent me a message, and he said, Stephen Norris and Gillian from New Order have been asking after and I'm like, what? How's that possible? How's anybody even heard of me? You know, what's going on here? So I'd love to take it on tour. Actually, I think it could. Actually, it lends itself to a kind of residency type situation, because you know what, you could come down every single night I played, and I'd be doing those songs completely differently every single time, because I don't know how I do them.
It's very charming versions, and it's delightful. It's like that's how I came across you this time. I don't know how I got the video, and I was watching it, and it was only after I watched about 10 I was like, hold on, I think I know this chap from another lifetime ago. And I was like, this is charming stuff. So wonderful, yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. I don't really write about music, and I haven't done for quite a few years now, because I never saw it as a career. And to me, this is music criticism. To me, this is me interpreting songs and kind of giving different layers of meaning to the songs, the same way I tried to do, probably failed through my writing. This is the same thing. Nice. There's no difference at all. And I got asked at the gig, actually, why was I doing so many Fall covers? I said, well, the reason was really straightforward. I posted up, I covered that Wet Leg song, Chase Long. Yeah. And I thought it was a pretty good cover, actually, as it goes. And their fan community really didn't take to it. They were very sniffy about it. But the Fall fan community were really supportive of me, so I kept doing it. Yeah, you know, straightforward as that.
No, I mean, yeah, I think that this is why, like that we've had a lot of nice things said about this kind of podcast, and it's just absolute chaos, just people blathering about the Fall and everyone. I think anyone in the Fall just likes it, all this kind of shit. Like anyone who shows any kind of interest in the Fall, we're all just excited and happy about it. So that's good. Has everyone said something about this song? I can't remember. Let's assume yes.
I've not.
Yeah, Phil's not. Yeah.
Oh, you've not. Go on. What do you think about this?
It's not my bag, really. This one. It is. I mean, it does what it says in the tin. I don't really disagree with anything that anyone says, but it's not really my bag. The kind of whole rockabilly chug along thing that they get going. But you know, you fill your boots.
Fair enough. It is up against African Mancunian, is that right? Is that what it's called? Which was an unreleased track from 1987, which only saw the light of day when Beggars Banquet put out that box set in 2013. Let's have a listen to that, Pip, if you don't mind.
Its song, approach, find home, story, also to run, fraction,
That's very nice indeed, isn't it, Alistair? What do you make of African Mancunian?
Yeah, I'm liking it. It's a good one. It's one that I didn't know as well. But I do love it when they start sort of like getting experimental on our asses. It always kind of works. Even got sort of like some of the later stuff, like Das Boot, where, you know, they're really like pushing the card for the, is this acceptable? You know, some Fall fans probably hate this stuff, but yeah, I think they should have done a lot more of it. And yeah, it's got a kind of Ginger Bakery vibe to the drums. So there's a bit of a sort of like an African going on in it.
That's interesting. I wrote Jackie Leaves It because it's, you know that, what was that? is it Cyclops EP or something like
Yes.
that he brought out a few years ago? It was that, it put me straight in mind of that.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you didn't come out, because what if it was, it's 87, that's somewhere in between Ben Sinister and Friends Experiment. And that Friends Experiment period, although the album itself doesn't necessarily got a lot of love, I mean, I like it, it's a good album, but the stuff that didn't go on Friends Experiment, that could have been an absolutely storming double album. I've said that before, but it was not to be. And this is a little hidden gem. What does Tim think?
Oh, let's have a gander. Oh, he's put, this is more like it and a total surprise for me. No idea if I had this buried away somewhere, but I don't remember hearing it before. It's really good stuff. I love the wide studio mixing of the percussion, clearly based around the idea of a sort of communal dance troupe. And the didgeridoo or whatever pipe-based thing it is doing the blowing throughout is really nicely done. Maybe a sample? Not a clue what Smith is going on about. But I love the way it's all layered into a field of sound. Hopefully it's not a racist scream of some sort that I've missed due to my jamming out to the beat for the duration every time I've listened to it. Good shit.
Doesn't seem to be. You've always got to be careful, haven't you, when anything to do with race enters into Smith's orbit, you've always got to tread carefully. But it looks like in this case,
we're good. I think we're good to go.
I think we're good. There's not really any obvious shenanigans going on. Ezra reckons it's loping idiot drums and tubular heroin prayers as the medicine fella gets to work. Love this chavvy Muslim gauze feel. Smith pronounces Mancunian as red book smarts, not pont smarts. It is a nice one. You gotta love a tight snare, layered voices. It's all a little bit quote unquote ethnic, and that's where I think you might get into some areas that, you know, Smith has waded into in the past. But again, we'll give him the benefit that this was just, they went with the mood, and it's a delightful mood. It's collagey, but unlike, say, some of the more out there audio collages, WMC Blob, stuff like that, it's an actual song, and it's a nice groove, and the lyrics are quite interesting from what we can make out. I'm Mancunian, I could cut down his tendrils, neck wires, young plants surrounding, breed, play, make love, make reference to black Levi channels, roses red and bread eyeless head. Don't know what it means. Probably not even the right lyrics, but there's some good words that were in a good order, and I'm all for that. Jerry, what do you make of this tune? Have you heard it before? Come across it before?
Yeah, I think I've encountered it. Say I like the instrumentation and the feel of it more than I like the vocals. I think the vocals actually let this down a little bit. I did a few reviews for a Fall magazine special that came out via Record Collector a few months ago, and I was just trying to find what I wrote there. I'll have a look, see if I can find it. But I remember I got given the Fall's second to last studio album to review, and I said, you know what, for the 34th album, whatever it was, this is a pretty decent album. In terms of kind of the Fall's repertoire, is it one of the best Fall albums? No, it's probably not. But compared to any other band's repertoire, it's pretty bloody good. And that's kind of my feeling about this song. I mean, yeah, it's all right. You know, it doesn't lift me one way or another. I don't dislike it. I don't particularly like it.
It's got its charm. That album that you referred to, the Sexualist, is probably Sublingual Tablet, and that's got some gems on there. They had a bit of
it does. There's one in particular, isn't there? Bad with song titles.
We really liked the one called Pledge, where he seems to be railing against like Kickstarters and the people telling him that he should go online and get people to give him money to record, and he doesn't seem to like that idea. But a lot of it's about technology, that record. It's cool. Yeah, it's a good one. What do you reckon, Phil, to this song?
Thanks, Brendan. I can remember your one too. So it really charmed the pants off me, this one. I've not heard it before. I wasn't expecting much. I know, I was laughing when you said it, how quote ethnic it sounded. But I mean, the actual instrumentation itself, it didn't sound like a didgeridoo to me. It sounded like a long pipe, you know, like you see in all those old 60s Viking films type thing, which they've also used on another one as well. well, isn't it? It's the start of Knowles Chemical Effluence.
Yeah.
There's a big long alpine pipe thing on the start of that as well, isn't there?
But he's probably responsible, right? Because it's Panpipe's Simon Rogers. He's the resident go-to for all of your world instruments.
So when we were talking about when this was recorded, when did you say 87?
87. So he's still in the band. It's a Curious Orange kind of era. Yeah, it will be Simon Rogers. He's anything cheeky and ethnic. It's Simon Rogers. He's probably got his hands in it. Anything competent, so jazzy piano, Rogers. Guitar riff with more than 3 notes in it, Rogers.
I quite liked. So I'm not as big a fan of the skit type things as you are, but I do like simple recording tricks being used well, and I liked the layering in this. But I like a lot of that sort of these sound experimentation anyway, and I think that's where a lot of his Barosian tape recorder experiments kind of come from, isn't it? That attitude. It worked for me. I found it quite magical. I didn't really hear it as a song. It was more like soundtracky for me. I thought I liked the vibe that it got going. So it was a nice treat for me, this one. Yeah, a bit of a surprise I'd not heard.
Yeah, a little hidden B-side gem. Leon says, fully formed for an off-cut, decent mezz cryptic delivery like Xylothreat. Was this meant for Hey Luciani, the play? Now, listeners, we've been threatening, because it's a similar era now. We won't give too much away about Luciani, but it is starting to be exhumed from the grave. And wink, wink. Watch this. Spaces. Similar in vibe to Half Found Borman in some ways. I mean, that's the audio collage kind of idea, or the found voices thing. It is time to vote. Once Chris Barrow of Wigan has given his opinion, it is time to vote.
Quickly. Well, I'm going to be a little bit disagreeable here. I'm sorry, but I'll start with the positives. Yeah, I thought the collage of the overlapping vocals was all really good stuff. And then, after a couple of minutes, there's kind of like an eerie drone kind of appears. That's the didgeridoo, is it? And it kind of picks up an intensity. I thought that was all really good stuff. But the beat just made me laugh. That kind of ethnic kind of
demo, ethnic
element
demo
on top. I'm sorry, it just made me laugh.
Which number's ethnic on here? That'll be 27.
Yeah, it just seemed a bit of an amusing mismatch for me. It just makes me laugh
a little bit. Yes, okay, accepted.
Sorry, Bernard. The reason I mentioned sublingual tablets as well was there's a track on there called Jungle Cloth.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
A little bit of, and I didn't quite understand it there either. I've heard that beat many times used in other places. I'm not sure it fits in. I mean, not that it matters. It's always good to be experimental, obviously. But it makes me feel a little bit uneasy, I think.
It is. It's incongruous with the Fall's kind of general take on things. I will concede, but it's good to try all the presets on your keyboard. You never know, you might write a hit.
It does sound like a preset on the keyboard, doesn't it? Incidentally, the track I really like from Sublingual is Auto Chip, 2014 to 16.
Yeah, that is a good one. Yeah,
that's the one I like.
I think that went through. I think we liked that one. I think it passed the test and got into the second round. But it is time for us to vote. Everything Hurtz against the Mancunian. Phil?
I African Mancunian.
Okie dokie. Chris?
I'm gonna go Everything Hurtz.
Okay. Jerry?
Well, I'm going to go Everything Hurtz, but I really don't like the fact that it just makes me think of R.E.M.
Them's the breaks.
I know. Ezra's gone with Mancunian. Alistair?
I'll go Mancunian.
Okay, I'm also going for Mancunian, so maybe it's a done deal. What does Tim think?
He's gone Mancunian.
Okay, so Mancunian swings it and goes through to the next round. Jerry, you okay for time, or?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. All right. We'll move on to the last era. So 2017's Groundsboy off the final album, New Facts Emerge.
It goes back now. Every day, all day, strip. Notice by law. Notice by law. Down enemy pilots. He would dispatch.
See, this is so he's by this point he's broken the lads. He's broken their spirit and their will from the pub rock chugging of like Imperial Wax and that kind of like era, and now he's put them back together with Sellotape, and Greenway's doing that like mankabilly kind of thing. It's all this thin, tinny sound, and Smith's wailing all over it. Beautiful rambling. He's got the drummer doing rim shots and Groundsboy, noticed by none, eat some grass. Groundsboy treated like scum. It's charming. It's bonkers. It's charming, and I like it a lot. I don't know if it's any good. It's impossible to tell, but I kind of like it. Yeah, Jerry, what about Groundsboy?
Well, you know, that's actually the first time I've heard it. It makes me want to hear more. I want to hear to the track's end, that's for sure. But it's bouncy. I like the bounciness of it. You know, you go out and bounce to a bouncy castle on that. I like the mankabilly. I like that kind of scratchy, kind of held together with sellotape kind of sound of the Fall that you know erupts every now and then because you know the bandmates can't do anything about it. I like that mankabilly. So yeah, that's a thumbs up for me. You know, I mean, I guess it's throwaway, but so what? So's all the pop music.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, by that point, Smith knew that he wasn't long for this world, I think. And that last album, he's really quite wild in his vocal delivery. I know, like he's not going to match the heights of things like Smile, but still the experimentation with his voice and the kind of not giving a fuck, kind of like floating over everything is splendid. Ezra thinks a charming slip of a number, homage to the many tropes that Mez must have loved, from the chukka-wukka drummings to the choir swamp guitar and some nice frothy snarling. Given the health straits he was in at the time, I can't help but feel incredibly humbled by his vibrance. Indeed, right? You know, this was a man who he was struggling at this time, but he stepped up. He needed the rock and roll dream. What about Pip? What do you think of Groundsboy?
Well, I guess it's about time for me to do my usual sneering about Greenway's guitar playing. I've not done that for a while. It's not my bag at all. This, in fact, there's no element of it really that I like, apart from Smithy's complete disregard for harmony with the rest of the band. But it's just a taste thing. It's just not my bag really. I come for the angles, not the sugar belly.
Yeah, you cut out there for a bit, Phil. I'm just going to assume that you really like that song and move on. Chris, what do you reckon about this?
Yeah, like I say, it's late on in the day in the new Facts Emerge LP. At first, it just seemed like a bit of a kind of trivial filler, you know, towards the end. But it's actually a worthwhile, catchy song after a few listens. I do actually like the guitar line. It's not earth-shattering, but it's a pleasing little number for me.
Indeed. Leon says the drumstick clacking. Indeed. Leon says the drumstick clacking is the highlight. Average. You know, each to their own. Alistair, what do you reckon to Groundsboy?
What did you think of the rim shots first?
I did right. I quite like some of the percussion. So I was going to mention that, yeah. But yeah, it's very country and northern, isn't it? Like, you know, it's more sort of like Johnny Smashed than Johnny Cash. But yeah,
very good, Al.
Thanks. The vocals are again. It's the new Facts thing. Like, he's really, really sort of like pushing it. It's like getting as grotesque as he can, and it's how his voice did change and how he did sort of like push it into like other kind of territories. That's really amusing. He makes New Facts quite a good LP, if for nothing else, just for the sort of like the vocal delivery on it throughout. But yeah, Groundsboy, like I said, it's amusing, but it's not like brilliant, is it? Like, it's all right.
Talking
That's
about
what you think.
Yeah, you're talking about Al. So as it made me think when I got into thinking about his vocals on that last album, it made me think of Derek Bailey. Derek Bailey did this album called Carpal Tunnel Syndrome. He thought he was developing carpal tunnel syndrome, but in the end, it's actually motor neuron. And he was realizing he couldn't play what he'd played previously. And he basically doubled down on what he could do. And so you get these really plucked strings and these really atonal kind of sounds. I think Smith kind of, that kind of Rage Against the Dying of the Light. Smith doubles down on what he can do in this album. And that's what I really like about Groundsboy. Yeah, it's a throwaway rockabilly number. But yes, I agree with you, Al. It's Smith's wailing and just like refusing to not be a fucking brutal rock and roll singer, even though everything is stacked against him. So good lad. Good lad. Did we hear from Tim?
No, I don't think we did. He says, a fun number, but not a highlight of the last round. Definitely works better as part of the whole when considered separately. But still a fun and slightly weird countryish riff with some fun if obscure lyrics. And Mark sounds like he's enjoying himself.
Indeed. But unfortunately for Groundsboy, he's up against 50-year-old Man off Imperial Wax 2008. 11 minutes of crimping doom. Let's have a listen. Give us from about 4 minutes in, Phil, whether you do the banjo breakdown. Give us a bit of that if you don't mind.
Yeah. All right with this?
That's plenty. It's plenty. Cheers. Al, what do you reckon to 500-year-old Man?
500. It's I like it. It's a great one. I sent it to my brother in January. But it reminds me of the Man Whose Head Expanded. Like, you've got the sort of punky kind of upbeat stuff. But then it's like mashed into Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. It's fantastic. There's some really nice garage grooving going on and some nice, really shitty, nasty, minimalistic, experimental shitiness, which is fucking awesome. I do like 50-year-old Man.
Yeah, great drumming, pummeling. I think this is the lads at their best, that era of the group. And I remember this from that In the Basement one, that Nigel Godrich one, which is a very polite and nice version of this song. And I always thought, it's okay, but revisiting this, like Greenway's nowhere to be seen. It is dirty and rough. Here Comes the Sun banjo comes in the middle, totally unnecessary. This does not need to be 11 minutes long, but I'm not arguing. I'm happy. I'm staying for the entire duration. And then they just start again, like after 7 minutes, with like a nice clean version of it. And Greenway pops up with his pedals and starts. It's a tour de force, lads. Breaks down several times through. Just brilliant. It's like just play the song 4 times in 4 different versions. That's Steve Albini's in collusion with Virgin Trains. You're not a real boy, I said. You're the real boy. Hold on, fucking washing the dishes here next to me. You're not
I'll get my BBC sound effects LP out for you.
You're a gym teacher. You're a council estate little shit. A little shit. I'm a 50-year-old man and I like it. I've got a 3-foot rock hard on, but I'm too busy to use it. I throw it on the floor and I piss in it. Brilliant stuff indeed. Jerry, what's a 50-year-old man do for you?
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely fantastic. It's like I was going to draw a parallel with Bohemian Rhapsody, but obviously Bohemian Rhapsody is just like written by a 4-year-old. And this is written by a 50-year-old man. So it's like Bohemian Rhapsody if it was written by a 50-year-old man.
Grown-up version. Nice. It's delightful indeed. And do you reckon, Jerry, Steve Albini would have, what do you reckon he'd done with his hands on a Fall album? It comes back time and time again. And this is what Smith says. He says, Steve Albini, you know, he wanted to do the new LP. That might be interesting from a production standpoint. Oh, fuck off, says Mez. Who produces you now? I do. And that's the end of that conversation.
I can hear the Fall's influence on Steve Albini's music, certainly. I don't know if anything would have been really gained from having Steve Albini in the studio with them. I mean, Steve Albini famously does not refer to himself as a producer, but an engineer. He just facilitates the band to get on with it. But I mean, I'm not sure at what stage in their careers that would have been to the band's advantage, if you see what I mean.
No, absolutely, yeah.
I mean, he did a really good job with another Fall influenced band, The Wedding Present. That was a great record he made with The Wedding Present in the early 90s. I think it was.
What was that? Sea Monsters, was it?
The Sea Monsters, was that it? Yeah.
It might have been.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, you know, again, Albini is one of these people. I stood next to him the entirety of a Fugazi gig. I think I don't know which one of us hated him more. And he's somebody else I've never spoken to.
Yeah. I mean, he went on the Old Brother podcast that the Hanleys do, and you know, he's definitely got a lot of respect for the Fall. But totally, like, you can see how something like Slates that he would have done really well with something early, but that's already perfect. So again, what would he have gained by like? Do you imagine him producing like Middle Class Revolt or something like that? It would have been awful, or even worse than it actually is. Yeah, fair enough. Phil, what do you reckon to a 50-year-old man?
Well, like everyone else, it's a stonker, isn't it? This one, it's very funny, and the sheer amount of energy that's going on in it is fairly breathtaking, really. It's the lyrics I could never get over really with this song. It's like it's like that. It's like an exploration of that feeling you get of, I love being a grown up because I can have biscuits whenever I want or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, what's he going to do? Because he's a 50-year-old man. He's got a boner, but he's not going to use it. He's going to throw some towels on the floor and have a piss.
Freedom, isn't it?
It's so surreal. It's like an R. Kelly opera.
Thought we were going to stay away from controversial issues this evening, Philip. That was our New Year's resolution. Alistair. Oh no, I'm not going to him next. Chris, say something nice about 50-year-old man.
Yeah, well, I gather it's the Fall's longest recorded song. Okay, and excellent it is too. I counted 8 different sections, straight in with pulsating drums and superb bass line, followed, like you say, with the banjo interlude, and then just kind of variations of the first part. There's a really good bit where it all kind of falls apart, and there's only the bass line giving it any kind of structure. But the best bit for me is there's the penultimate section, the bit with the lyrics, an inferior product mess. There's a great kind of snarky vibe to that section. Overall, an experiment that really pays off.
So what's going on with the end of it? It's like a completely different song.
Well, we covered Inferior Product Man, which was released on that alternative kind of those sessions that Grant Showbiz put out. So that either that or an alternative version of it is classed as an early version of 50-year-old the Inferior Product Man. So I'd forgotten that it was actually on the end of this track as well. But it's interesting. I think it's just a variation, and it's interesting how they seem to have collaged 3 or 4 bits together, and no one else is getting away with the banjo interlude. They just we give them a pass where nobody else would get it. Alistair, 50-year-old man. You've told us already, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have, haven't you? What about Tim? What does he think? Has he told us?
Has he not said anything? What did he put? I like this one, enjoyed it live at the time, but it's an instance where studio experimentalism fails to elevate a fairly standard rocker with a whiff of the pub. Every time I hear it, I can't but think it would be better as a 3-minute number like the one above. And in stereo, instead of the shit mono a lot of this this record. I do like the line about throwing the towel on the floor like a green man, probably a lift from some hotel sign he saw in his travels. I think like the sort of jammy bit after the 7-minute mark, followed by the tighter inferior product man bit at the end to the rest. Whatever that
I'm
means.
not sure I agree.
Tell you what,
with him.
though, we were talking about gigs before. He went watching the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T a lot.
Did he? Yes, I asked Stu to chip in. So, if you are still listening, Patreon, we've been doing looking through the Fall's catalog year like live stuff. So we did 77. We put that out as a special only. Throw in some pounds and you can listen to it. And we'll do 78 soon. But yeah, we'll grill Tim next time he's around. Leon talks about Elaine's part on this, her waspy synth work at 7:38, and we've not mentioned Elaine tonight, and we should. We love you, Elaine. Thank you for your work.
We all love Elaine.
Do love her, don't we? So that's that. Ezra says it's good. Goes on about that rock hard, 3-foot rock hard on and all that stuff. But we've got to take a vote. Is it going to be Groundsboy or 50-year-old man? Philip?
50 for me, please.
It's easy, this one, isn't it? Easy. Jerry?
50.
Yeah. Al?
50, innit? Easy.
Chris?
50.
Take it home. There, we done it. It's done. No more votes needed. Now, final showdown is a Rouse Rumble going way back to 1979. Bopping, innit?
I'm going to be the first one to say yummy first.
Boppity, love yummy first. Definitely got that influence there. But Alistair, what do you make of Rouse Rumble Rouse?
It's a bit of a classic, isn't it? You know, it's a good rock I like. It's got a decent drop down bit to it, and I really love. It's just the moronic riff, like, you know, repeated over and over again, like some demented fairground ride or something like that. I don't know. It's a great tune that with a really annoying riff in it that the Fall do really well with, sort of like converting moronic riffs into something that's visible. So it's another great example of that.
Yeah, he reckons Paul Hanley was talking about, he reckons it's a rip-off of Shake Appeal by the Stooges. It's not that close. It's decent, though. It's definitely a nice pounding kind of riff. Jerry, what about Rouse Rumble?
Better than the Stooges. Sorry, but, you know.
Controversial opinions?
No comparison whatsoever. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, it's probably one of my top. I don't know how many numbers you want to put here. Top 10, top 100, top 1,000 tunes. Full stop. I don't know where to begin on this. I don't want to praise. I'm kind of with MES on this. I don't want to praise the drummer or the guitarist or the bassist or anybody like that. But you know what? You kind of have to on this song, because I mean that drum riff that comes in at the start, it's like, oh my God, you know, you can't stop your feet from dancing just right from the off. I agree with Alistair on that guitar riff. It's just like such a brilliantly kind of abrasive, kind of wrong, kind of repetitive, annoying, brilliant guitar riff. And that's not even taking on board Marky Smith's vocals, which are just one of his superlative. You know, he sounds absolutely on top of his game there, on peak form. He's having a lot of fun with it. You know, that's Rumble. You know, he's playing around. I don't know what the song's about whatsoever. I don't care. I've never wanted to know. And it's also surprisingly difficult to cover on piano.
Have you had a go at that one?
I have, yeah.
All right, I'll have a listen later, and we'll judge you. But I'm sure you do a better job than Phil would. Phil, what do you think
Yeah.
of the song "Rouse Rumble" by the Fall?
Well, I've actually recorded it, and I'm just going to play it now. It's a gem. It's a gem. I love this. I love this track. It's like everyone's been saying, it's a beautifully moronic riff. It's the 2-note keyboard break that I love.
Yeah.
And it goes straight back in. It's wonderful. I love how everything. It's like ensemble music, isn't it? Nobody's taking the lead. It's just everything's kind of just locomotive, like a locomotive engine behind it all. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Very Matt Riley, very Yummy Fur, very kind of plinky plonky, as Al would probably say. And it's what's not to like. It's a real post-punk pop gem.
Yeah, it's splendid, isn't it, Chris? What do you reckon to Rouse Rumble?
Yeah, I'd never heard this version before. This is the single version, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
this is a groovy number at the start. But like you all say, it's just about that riff. It's just something that only the Fall could kind of think of doing, isn't it? You know, it's just so uniquely them and just magical. Yeah. I like the keyboards in this version. They just kind of go off in their own kind of bizarre direction, don't they? Kind of just float off in strange ways.
Whilst Jerry's a bit occupied, do you want me to tell you what the song's about?
No, don't tell him. Don't tell him.
He doesn't want to know what it's about.
No.
It's about.
No, I don't want to know. Want to know.
No.
I've even sung it. I've even sung it.
We've disturbed him now.
Don't tell us, Phil. We don't.
And here's the other thing. Obviously, the song "No Christmas for John Keys."
Yeah.
Took me 20 years to get that one.
I was saying the same thing. It's like
Al still doesn't get it, so don't spoil it for Al.
Yeah, I'm not into either.
I sent £70 instead of 70p to pharmaceutical company ManRowche AG. That's as much as I'm going to give away. There is a fun story to it if you want to dig in, get the annotated for, but we're not spoilers here. No, we're not ruining things for anyone. But Ezra says, early slammer, loads of people around the land prescribed a death dance, absolute tornado of a track, setting in place a template for the Fall Garage Rumble for the next few albums to come. Great grayscale, dirge and thrum. Has everybody thrown their 2 pence in? Tim's not. Tim will love this one.
What was Tim said? Timothy Tim Twa. He has put one of the early highlights for sure. The locked together bass and guitar riffs with stacked on chaotic keyboards, so marvelous. I've always thought there was something oddly soul-like about this one. Can't put my finger on why. Maybe it's the drums. It's always stood out to me as something a bit different to stuff they did immediately either side of this release. And it's a sound that the other bands could have spent years exploring and replicating. I love this sort of muttered recitation close to the end too.
Yeah, it's a smashing single. No questions about that. But it is up against No Bulbs off the Escape Route EP, a wonderful and frightening album by the Fall. Top tunes indeed, Jerry. What about No Bulbs?
Oh man, such a killer riff. Just such a killer riff. I mean, and it goes on a great length of time as well. I'm really glad it needs to be going on that length of time, just for the riff to build and build and build. I can't vote for one over the other. These two, it's not possible. I mean, I think they're both exemplary. Kind of, it's absolutely why I love the Fall so much. Songs like No Barbs and Lash Rumble.
It's delightful, but of course, you could split your vote. Like but you won't like some of the words I use to describe vote splitters.
Well, I do have a defined. Here's the thing. I used to DJ a fair amount. I never understood why people let me. I think it's just because I drank more than them. And I've DJ'd with Lash Rumble dozens and dozens of times, but never, I don't think once with No Barbs, which is a crime, but I ever have. So that might be the defining factor here.
Indeed. But it's a wonderful, jangly kind of rocking country and northern-ish riff. But what does Alistair think? That's the important thing here. What does Alistair think of this song?
Brilliant, dancey, poppy tune, innit? I do think, whack it on, and see that dance floor fill up, like. I did find it's a funny little story, innit, with the song of about bricks sort of moving in, wasn't it? And you get the blob strap line in there, which I'm familiar with from the Profanosaurus. But yeah, it struck me as slightly ironic that he will talk about band members and even his wife in the songs when he sort of goes on about people appearing on reality TV shows and going on about words of dignity, but he's doing it himself. But yeah, absolutely fantastic song, and it is a really difficult decision going up against Roche Rumble because again, they're both very different animals, but they're equally as outstanding as separate pieces of music. So difficult.
Yeah, I know. It's Brix does a great job on here. She mentions this song as well in her book, which we're just rereading because we're going to talk about it in a few weeks. And she talks about the squalor of the apartment. You couldn't find anything. One morning, Mark got up and started looking everywhere for a belt to hold his trousers up because he was so skinny. He couldn't find the black strap. Then the light bulb went out and everything was breaking. It does.
Sorry, it just reminded me. I get mentioned in the Brick Smith biography.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I was going to wait and see if you brought that up. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that? Or is that...
I don't mind, but you know what? My anecdote from the same incident is a hell of a lot better than hers, but it's so good I can't actually share it.
Okay.
So that's unfortunate. Not on a podcast anyway. I don't mind, messaging you later, but not on a podcast. I know exactly why she's put me in there. And I've got to say, my anecdote's a hell of a lot better.
Then spill the beans.
Tell me if I'm. Don't tell us the story, of course, but tell me if I'm. But remembering this right, it was at one point were you in the house while Brix was staying there at Courtney Love's house? Is that right?
Yes, I've been flown over there by Courtney. Not entirely sure why she wanted me to come out there. And so I was just kind of hanging out. Brick Smith shows up, and she seemed nice enough.
I suppose the part of the book she's talking about how she almost joined Whole, I think, and then she decided not to join.
That's sort of true. She almost joined Whole, but then she went back and joined F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T and did Light User Syndrome and so on. That's her take on it. Yeah, you see, I think she made the better choice there, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I might have had a hand in that decision simply because inadvertently I wasn't really aware. I mean, this sounds stupid, but I wasn't really aware of how the music industry worked even then. And so I got a call from my news editor while I was staying at Courtney's, who was like, "Come on, give us a story. Come on, you got to give us a story. Come on, give us a story." And I was like, "Well, I don't have any stories. Rick Smith's probably going to join Whole, but that's not a story." And next thing I know, it's on the cover or something. And that hadn't been agreed at all. It was just under discussion. So nobody was very happy with me.
But
that wasn't the anecdote.
No. I think she made the right decision coming back to join the Fall again, at least musically. I don't know how pleasant it was when she was back for that second time, but I think if she'd have joined Whole, that would have been a very interesting dynamic. Had possibly, but who knows? That's for another life, another time.
I don't know. I think she would have been better off joining Nirvana or something.
Mhm.
Well, that would have been delightful, wouldn't it? But
That would be incredible, yeah.
You see, that to me would work.
That
Yeah.
blood clean scream that she does on Terry Waits says, that'd really
Yeah,
fit.
she's got the voice.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was quite a big fan of the Adult Net as well. I thought the Adult Net were great.
Yeah,
I'm
we
always pleasantly surprised when listening to it. I've not got into them as a band, but it's whenever they've popped up doing this, I've always enjoyed what I've listened to.
It's quite popular. I'm surprised she didn't get a little bit more traction with it. It's some good stuff. But yeah, maybe she'll come on one day and tell us, but probably not. I asked Steve Hamley to come on and he's still thinking about it. It might be a few years. As in, he didn't say anything. So I'd love, but we have got Mayo Thompson coming on in a couple of weeks, which should be fantastic. I'm amazed that he's said okay to that. So wow, big times indeed. But what are we talking about here? No bulbs.
No bulbs.
No bulbs. Chris, what do you reckon to No Bulbs?
Yeah, I hadn't heard this for ages, but when I did, it blew me away. It's just the perfect off-kilter pop song. Every component in the band is firing on all cylinders. It even sounds like they're enjoying themselves. It goes on for over 7 minutes, but never gets boring. Like I say, the lyrics are more about the missing belt than light bulbs, I came to realise. But excellent stuff.
You seem disappointed, Chris.
Yeah, I know about
it was the lack of light bulbs was not helping with the belt location.
No, I guess not.
It was aggravating, the whole scenario.
But here's the thing that I kind of like. There's a little bit in the lyrics where he talks about the former tent was an anti-corporal punishment, meant well, but it came to nothing. So he kind of goes on a belt tangent about he's obviously using it to keep up his pants, but he's not against the odd bit of belt whipping, which led me to the XTC song, which was just slightly before this, called No Thugs in Our House, which actually musically sounds similar and actually has some lyrical similarities, but I don't think there's any XTC. I don't think Smith was a fan of XTC at all. I cannot see him having any time for that stuff.
Did you see what it said on the annotated Fall about the damp flat?
No.
It links, the annotated Fall website links it to the work of parapsychologist T.C. Lethbridge, who had a theory that the magnetic fields of water contain information on its past experiences. Hence, the damp flat is the biggest library yet.
Okay, nice.
That's the lyric at the end, isn't it?
I'm a big fan of light bulb jokes. Can I just share one with you?
Of course.
Take this opportunity.
Yes, please.
How many Nirvana fans does it take to change a light bulb?
I do not know.
None. They just let it go dead and follow it around for the next 40 years.
Oh la la. I wasn't going
there's another one for you there.
I wasn't going to broach this subject, but that photograph of you with the wheelchair pushing Mr. Cobain onto the stage has been doing the rounds this week for the obvious reasons.
Well, I can tell you another Ramon. How many Ramones fans does it take to change a light bulb?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, thank you.
Dear all week, folks.
Yes. Who hasn't told us what they think of No Bulbs by the Fall?
I've not.
Go on, Phil.
So weirdly to me, it feels like this is the first time I've compared the Fall to Blondie. So I was just putting in mind because it's got that sort of poppy feel to it. It's got the nice female vocal line going through it. It's dead catchy, and I just kept thinking to myself, this is so much better than anything Blondie put out. It's like they really did deserve to get a lot more pop traction than they got, because they really know how to nail. I mean, Smithy's ability to knit a hook out of nothing and to be surrounded by a band that really were just 100% committed to it, and then to have Bricks as well as this additional kind of real powerhouse in the band. It's like, how the hell are they not more famous? That was kind of what I was left listening to this. I love this. I wasn't particularly familiar with the tune, and so this has been my earworm this week. Really, it's really hooked me in. Yeah,
I mean, Bricks, as far as I remember, did cite Debbie Harry as kind of a musical hero, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was some influence in there. I noticed Smith's vocal melody, very strong. We've said this before. He can take what would be anodyne in the hands of most other people and make a melody out of almost nothing. It's amazing. Ezra says, music of the drums are mainlining Herdinger's motoric Apache to great results, describing the mold and detritus of 80s Manc flats with great humour and flourish. This is true pop splendor, joy in the sync, the biggest library yet. And Leon says that this is Brix's best guitar performance on record, up there with Poison Ivy, another Mez narrative with so many quotable lines. Is Ezra going to read some of the lines out for us? No, he's not, Leon. He's done, and he's not coming back. Chris Barrow's here now. Anyone got anything else to add to things about No Bulbs? What about... Go on, Jerry.
That's the thing about melodies. Having covered something like 860 songs in the last couple of years, you notice that actually melodies are really, there's very little between all of them. So either you've got a knack of making it sound like a melody, or you haven't. There's very little between any of them, because there's only 8 notes there, unless you want to include the black notes, but no one does. So Marky, I think you're right. I think Marky Smith does have a talent for making stuff sound a lot more melodic than necessarily. I mean, everything's not melodic, or everything is melodic. It's really just in the kind of way that you sing it or the way that you intone it. And I think that's one of the things MES does that people, perhaps non-Fall fans, don't pick up on.
I think so. And the fact that his voice is so incongruous with that idea, that his voice is so screechy and atonal in places, but still melodically McCartney-ish in his ways. What does Tim think? He's not told us yet, has he?
No, I don't think he has. So let's have a dig in. And he's put No Bulbs. Oh, we've got an Ezra here. Another absolute highlight for me is the whole thing about junkies. You know, belt straps and light bulbs for finding veins. In my delightful hometown, they put special lights in the toilets of the supermarkets and police them with burly brutes to stop the junkies killing themselves on the premises. So this has always been evocative as an image. I love the constant variation and shifting about that this track does musically. The guitar noodling should be really annoying, but the way it just keeps going over the same riff over and over, but the way the rhythm section keeps pushing along and the constant changes in the way the track's decorated with keys and layers of multi-tracked guitars and build and then release is brilliant. Vocally, it's all about the rhythms and delivery, and it's a faultless performance. I wish they had replicated this recorded sound for a lot more of the Beggars period. It combines the best aspects of the other contemporaneous records with some of the creative layering of the sound that they quickly went on to discard, a way that I really love. Actually, it's just reminded me of something I was going to say, which is that the wandering guitar style on No Bulbs is actually quite similar to the wandering guitar style on Groundboy, but I just like it a lot more. Something about it that I don't get off Greenway's playing.
It's delightful, Tim, obviously.
If people hadn't noticed yet.
Yes, you made it very clear that Peter Greenway is not your favourite folk guitarist, but Tim likes it a lot. So let's have a vote, shall we? Are we going for No Bulbs, or are we going for Roush Rumble? Jerry, and as you said, it's a tough call for you, but I'm coming to you.
I would have loved to have heard Marky Smith sing Last Night at DJ Saved My Life.
That's one of my dreams too.
Produced by Steve Albini.
Now we're talking with a solo.
Let's make it happen with AI. Let's make it happen.
Peter Greenway guitar solo over there.
Well,
Alice. Oh, go on, Jay.
Well,
I was going to let you off the hook there.
Yeah, that was my answer.
Okay,
that was
beautiful.
my answer.
Beautiful. Alistair, which way are you going?
I'm going to split.
Oh, coward.
Yeah.
Phil?
I'm going to surprise myself and say No Bulbs.
Oh, my Lord. Chris Barrow of Wigan?
No Bulbs.
I'm going for Roush Rumble. So, Phil, what does Tim say?
Timothy Trois has gone No Bulbs.
Alistair, have you told us?
Yeah, he split his vote, didn't he?
Well, you'll be disconcerted to know that Ezra has gone for No Bulbs, and therefore No Bulbs goes through.
Shocker.
Sadly, shocker. Who would have thought we'd be putting Jawbone and Roush Rumble out tonight? It is a cruel, cruel world indeed.
It's a stupid idea, isn't it? The whole podcast.
Fucking podcast is a total fucking disaster, and that's it. This is the last episode.
That feels right to me, though. That feels right that Rouse Rumble should be voted down. You know, it's one of the classic singles of our time. Let's vote it down. Let's do it.
That's it. Like, that's exactly what we said when we started this. We're such contrarians that the first round, everything good is going to go out, and it's going to be all like the skits and covers. It's like fucking Lost in Music versus WMC Blob in the final or some shit like that.
Oh, but Lost in Music is so good.
Oh, it's controversial music.
And that Seaside one, the Seaside cover.
I'm going to Spain.
Yeah.
No, I like that one. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
like
not. That's coming up soon. That's.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, I'm a big.
It sounds
fan
like
of
the
that.
television personalities.
Yeah. I've covered that one myself in the past. It's a gem. So what that means is that Smile, I African Mancunian, 50-year-old Mon, and No Bulbs have gone through. Jerry, thank you very much. It's been a delight.
I've enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Brilliant. Invisible Stew has said thank you as well for the wonderful contribution to music journalism. That's from Beyond the Grave. A big thank you.
Confusing me, right?
All right. Well, we shall reconvene this time next week at a different time, probably, but who knows? Jerry, thanks for the covers. We'll keep checking out. And do you reckon you'll do any more of the gigs?
Well, I'm waiting for someone to ask me. I could be here a long time. I did contact Fliss Kitson, actually, who's putting on that tour with the former members of the Fall.
All right, yeah, the House of All, yeah.
Yeah, she's behind that, and she did say she'd get back to me.
Nice.
We're thinking of trying to talk to the people at the Presswich Arts Festival about doing something there. So you never know, there might be that might be.
I'd be up for it.
Yeah,
I'm up for it. I'm gonna go away and cover Smile later. I don't know how the hell I'm gonna do that.
Nice, looking forward to that. All right, well, take care. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye bye.